Put it home. Images. But you get 2 images. That's it? Fuck, Bing. But it's very much a Dante's Inferno. The levels of hell. The images. Am I getting confused about the picture? Didn't he have one of sort of stacked levels of hell? Am I mixing that up with someone else? The style kind of looks right. That's how much I know about hell. I thought there was one that was more. That's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah. Well, goes to show how good my art, my art history is. I flunked those classes. I was spending too long trying to work out the biology and the chemistry and the physics. But yeah, bizarre mind. Dante's. Yeah, that's the book, right? I couldn't do this research and see a monkey get sick and die. Some people can, some people can't. I've done it. Okay. I sort of made the cat better than monkeys than kids. How many terriers are going to try and weaponize the virus even more now? how easy it can be manipulated now. All they have to do is sample some from an infected person. Yeah. You know, you can understand the concerns, but the problem is I just wonder how much of this is all manufactured by those that want to sell vaccines, etc., or the warmongers that just want, you don't need however much. What's an F-35 set you back? $100 million. You don't need $100 million F-35s to take on the Taliban, right? But someone like China, you need ever and greater tech because they keep stealing our tech, etc., etc., and that way the industries can be kept going. And it's very disturbing that we've just let the profit motive, war and profit, drive where it is that we go as human beings. Reminds me of an old work camp. At the turtle tank over on the side there. I was thinking of setting up a turtle cam. It might be. He's kind of cool. I enjoy watching him. Well, except when he shits everywhere and I got to change all the water. But that problem has been solved now. I got this massive filter pump, and it seems to be doing a good job of cleaning the water. How in the hell does the US end up funding this further? Blows my mind. Yeah. Right, and you're still giving money to the Wuhan Institute right now, okay? And like I say, you can't not do it, okay? But I think there has to be something that corresponds to a moratorium. Like they've already done it, okay? And then they decide, okay, who wants to volunteer to work a few years on the whatever USS viral warship, cargo ship. You send people out there and you do experiments there. Okay, if that's really what you want to do for sort of tracking, etc., working it. But this current system is bananas. Okay. This same here, Jigs. Just completely boggles my mind. Everything is just so corrupt. It's basically a runaway train at this point. Yes. Unconcerned with being stopped by anyone. They know they're safe. Yeah, kind of. The Eddie Barzoons of the world. You know, it's funny. Don't they flat out deny they did any bio stuff there with viruses? Yeah. Is it a B3 or 4 lab? It's both. Stand to reason they were doing it. Why deny it? Because they're hoping it goes away. Right? I think, you know, a lot of what you're seeing is a sort of chaotic type response, but there's mechanisms that are in place, that have been trained in place, right? The Event 201, the SPAs, all that gives you an indication of how much these people, they made a living out of doing this modeling, right? It's the world we live in. When you deny it, it's like admitting guilt. Why? Because all B3s and B4s work like this. Yes, look, like I say, the Chinese look guilty as sin. They look guilty as sin. We must not make the same mistake the Germans did. China, we must not make the same. I see. Maybe. Look, they're much more homogeneous and organized than the West is. You know, our individuality and creativity may have got us through the travails of the previous centuries and paradigm shifts, but it's patently obvious to me that the East will easily adapt to the new technocratic environment, and in doing so, they'll just crush. They'll crush the systems of the West through just sheer efficiency. Okay, that's and having a slave labor force that they don't mind abusing. An elite group above even military logic. Imagine the generals knowing all this. I'd imagine they question it all. Yeah. So, Marie says bingo, Kev. Well, full house and bingo back. No gloves or even masks with the feces of the bats all around, especially with the high amount of viruses they do carry. Seeing scientists without PPE in those caves concerning. Look, man, I'll tell you this. When I'd get a monkey, I'd gown up and wear gloves and face masks, etc. But once I'd finished handling the monkey in the lab, the monkey was in the experimental box, the gloves and the mask would come off, basically, because I wasn't working with infectious viral particles, and anything that a monkey had, I'd probably get it anyway. Maybe the monkey with the prion or the spontaneous neurodegeneration should have been, but we didn't understand that monkey well enough, right? Because it was such a one-off. Who knew? But anyway, I'm still here. So, it's tiring working in PPE, right? And if I had an opportunity to not have to wear it whilst I was doing, I would, right? If I didn't have the monkey in the lab, okay, I wouldn't have the masks and because a lot of the stuff that I was doing was very fine detail, and you couldn't even wear gloves to do it because you break electrodes, etc. You need the tactile feeling of your skin to prepare some of the equipment. So, there's a balance that needs to be struck. But like I say, I was in an environment where I'm not dealing with infectious pathogens. Okay, I spent my whole career trying to avoid them. Viruses freak me out. Institutes of Virology cages, but they were not doing experiments with viruses and animals. Oh,
You and Billy are doing great work. Super information you won't see anywhere else. 07.
Jigs 07 back, sir. 07 back indeed. And yeah, we're trying, man. It's all you can do is just keep leaning into it, calling it out, and things will change and we'll get through it. Like I say, the vaccines are not filling me with confidence at the moment. Someone needs to explain to me exactly what's going on there. It amazes me how the government of China thinks people are in general stupid. Wow, your government does too. DJ with communism always fails. Does it? It looks like it's on the ascendancy to me. So they were speaking of coronaviruses in BSL 2 or 3. I mean, they only did cold viruses there. EcoHealth sucks. Yes. So Fauci continued to fund it. Yes, they still are. How do you freeze China funds really after the initial funding was all they needed? And Artie says, glad to see you back on YouTube. Yeah, it's just a backup channel. Hopefully I'll get one channel back with I think my main channel might be Toast, but yeah, who cares. Forgot funding. It's the tech transfer they needed. Witch's Brew of Death reminds me something I recently read in Harvard to the Big House. See below. Always come on. In ancient golden silkworms in Pandora's box. In ancient China, there was a tradition of developing a special poison called goo by throwing as many venomous creatures as you could find into a jar and sealing them in and letting them kill each other off. Zoonotic Thunderdome until only one was left, also known as a golden silkworm. The lone surviving creature was then thought to host a demonic poison, since every other creature's venom was thought to be concentrated within it. According to Chinese folklore, this golden silkworm could then mutate itself into any number of other animals, retaining its lethal ability no matter what form it took. So it turns out the concept of manipulating nature in an attempt to create unpredictable and unnaturally powerful weapons is nothing new. However, this ancient practice took a modern turn about 50 years ago, creating a threat to humanity that may have just re-emerged from its container once more. Indeed, shout out to Dan from Harvard to the Big House. Yeah, help support the stream. Your good doctor needs mints. Remember the Mint Fund. Yes, Blue Baker Arms for helping cover the costs of the streaming platform here. It's not free to get around YouTube. That's just how it is. Support what it is that you like if you find this useful. When you leave a paper trail, there's no denying you've done the experiments. Yes, and that's the one thing that we have in our favour, their hubris. They wanted the publications, and once you can start picking at those, you can find elements of what's going on. And like I say, the monkeys has been my big suspicion right from the beginning. And there we have Billy Bosticson laying it out. 1,300 monkeys from the original SARS right up to SARS-CoV-2. I think it explains a lot about current pathogen. Can someone post link to the briefer document? That's been done. Link Kev. Stupid because China may have been treating this since early 2019, meaning the real leak may have been Fort Detrick and planted in Wuhan. Maybe it seems, these are all potentialities, right? But what we have to go with what's concrete, okay? And there's enough concrete stuff to just start with China and then work backwards. We can already see the links between China and the West. And like I say, what I would like to be able to do is I would like a list of all visiting researchers that have been at that institute in the last 20 years. Okay, which countries, which institutes. Okay, we know Duke and Barrick are involved, but who else? Okay. Remember they kicked the scientists out of the lab in Canada as well? Yes, they did. Good Doggy says, Brazil warns women to delay pregnancy. Yes, they did. I think it was 1,300 babies were dead, 9,000 children dead from SARS-CoV-2. These weren't people or kids with, sure there was some comorbidities, but Brazil warns women to delay pregnancy amid COVID-19 surge. Advice comes as country's clinicians claim P1 COVID variant more aggressive during pregnancy. Jesus Christ. Brazil has warned women to delay getting pregnant until the worst of the pandemic passes, saying the virus variant that is devastating the South American country appears to affect expectant mothers more than earlier versions of the coronavirus. The recommendation comes as Brazil continues to be one of the global epicenters of the pandemic, with more Brazilians dying of the virus each day than anywhere else in the world. This is my argument for why the Barrington Declaration is a non-starter. Hospitals are buckling under the strain, and stocks of drugs needed for intubating severely ill patients running perilously low. We did that yesterday, so just imagine having a tube stuck down your trachea. If it's possible to delay pregnancy a little until a better moment, a health ministry official Rafael Parente said during a news conference on Friday. He said the recommendation was partly due to the stress on the health system, but also due to the more easily transmissible Brazilian variant known as P1. The clinical experience of specialists showed that this new variant acts more aggressively in pregnant women. Parente said. Previously, COVID-19 cases during pregnancy were focused on the final trimester and birth, whereas lately there have been more serious cases in the second and occasionally first trimester, he said. The P1 variant, first discovered in the Amazon city of Manaus, has quickly become dominant in Brazil. It is thought to be a major factor behind a massive wave of infections that has brought the country's death toll to over 350,000. The second highest in the world behind the US. Brazil's outbreak is increasingly affecting younger people, with hospital data showed that in March, more than half of all patients in intensive care were aged 40 or younger. Jair Bolsonaro, the president, has told everyone to just buck the fuck up. The president is opposed to lockdowns and held large events in which he often does not wear a mask. He has only recently embraced vaccines as a possible solution. The inoculation rollout has been plagued by delays and missed targets for getting people inoculated. This week, vaccinations were stopped in several cities due to a shortage of vaccine supply, according to local media. Surging COVID-19 cases has left hospitals short of sedatives needed for patients who require mechanical ventilation. That's a shoddy article. An emergency shipment of the drugs arrived in Brazil late on Thursday from China. While donations from Spain are expected to arrive next week, Rio de Janeiro and Sao Paulo have both sounded the alarm over shortages, with Sao Paulo's health secretary saying this week that the city's ability to care for seriously ill coronavirus patients is on the verge of collapse. Latest global COVID-19 data, 138 million cases. It's just a fraction of the people on this planet. And there was another article here. So, did we do this at the beginning? But India records fresh record rise in COVID cases as Delhi enters weekend lockdown. And there you can see open air funeral pyres as they burn the dead. Holy crap! New Delhi has been placed under a weekend lockdown on the day India recorded another record daily increase in COVID-19 cases amid a ferocious new wave pandemic driven by new variants. What about all the ivermectin? Hey, this is the thing to worry about as you. The drugs might not work. The country racked up 234,692 COVID-19 infections in the past 24 hours to Saturday morning, Health Ministry data showed, which was the 8th record daily increase in the last 9 days, with families clamouring for drugs and hospital beds. Total cases reached nearly 14.5 million, second only to the United States, which reported more than 32 million. Indian fatalities rose by 1,341 to reach a total of 175,649. No, that's not bad. Hopes that the South Asian countries might have beaten the pandemic have been dashed, with India seeing more than 2 million cases this month alone and Bangladesh and Pakistan imposing shutdowns. India's per capita rates remain low by international comparison, raising the prospect that infection numbers, fueled possibly by a virulent new double mutant, may explode further. After a national lockdown a year ago led to hundreds of deaths and some of the worst slumps of any major economy, the Indian government has been desperate to avoid a second stoppage. Many states, however, clamping down, including Maharashtra, how do you say that? Maharashtra, where the biggest city is Mumbai, industry-heavy Gujarat, and Karnataka, which is home to the IT hub Bangalore. Uttar Pradesh state, home to some 240 million people. Man, there's so many people on the Indian continent, man. Announced that all villages and cities would be under lockdown for one day on Sunday. In the capital, New Delhi, which has overtaken Mumbai as the worst Indian city, restaurants, malls, gyms and spas were shut for the weekend. Weddings can go ahead with guests limited to 50, while a maximum of 20 people can attend funerals. Movie theatres can only open with 1/3 capacity. Don't panic, all essential services will be available through the weekend, the city's Chief Minister, Avnit Kejriwal. Similarly, the northern state of Uttarakhand has restricted gatherings to 200 people but exempted the fast ongoing Hindu festival Kumbh Mela. The gathering of Haridwar has attracted as many as 25 million people, Jesus, since January, including some 4.6 million this week alone, with most people ignoring COVID-19 guidelines. Wow. One seer died from the virus on Thursday, and 80 other holy men have tested positive. Experts fear that millions of devotees will now take the virus back to their homes and towns. Yeah, that's what happens. Election rallies also going ahead in the eastern state of West Bengal, with Home Minister Amit Shah attending 2 roadshows and 1 public meeting on Friday alone. In the state capital, Kolkata railway station. It just sounds like a disaster to me. It's a long article, but if you want to read it, if you want to look at the open air funeral pyres, there you go. So I think it's possible, even thinking Middle East and Russia and India doing this too. So it's all subject. It's all subject to me. What that means. He was a top player. Worked with Dr. Plummer and Dr. Fauci. I think she may have been killed. Maybe a scene or her. Oh, the Chinese couple. Yeah. 1,300 Monkeys. It's a horror film. My God, 12 Monkeys movie. What was that about again? Well, that was about a virus escaping. Do you have any AI computer models that make any long-term predictions? Do they have any AI? Yes, many. A virus made by Colt in the future, Marie. Kevin's saying 1,300 Monkeys reminds me of the 13 Monkeys movie. It's 12 Monkeys, but I have to watch it. Yeah, it's a great movie. I agree with you. Wuhan is diversion. It was too quickly spread all over the world and may be released multiple places. I don't know. If we think that the release was September, October, it would make sense. The dynamics that we're seeing. There's not much in the dynamics that I find that. I mean, of course, always be skeptical, but generally, I'm okay with the timelines and the cities involved. When we first saw the Wuhan, the collapsing people, etc., it's like the neurological impacts were long set in my opinion. Maybe, but where's our? Where did? What happened to the falling? Am I looking at? I'll do that later. Just what these are. Jewish question. I want to find the lady falling over. That's it. That looks like a Wuhan fall.
Og hvor valget...
Yeah. And that's them saying that the AstraZeneca vaccine can no longer be used in Denmark. Hieronymus Bosch, is that what I was thinking? Let's see. Bosch. Hieronymus Bosch spellings were like reading a comic book today. Yes. We're on an island. Is that the picture I was thinking of? Bosch was a tripper before LSD was invented. Well, he just knew where the mushrooms were. I think that might have been the picture I was thinking. I remember it being more red in colour though. But yeah, something along those lines. I have got all Hieronymus Bosch all mixed up in my head. I met a chick at a party that was trying to say she was related to Dante and was trying to do Reiki on me and was asking if she could hold my hand to feel my energy and shit. I was like, big negative biatch. Okay. Carrying a BH clips. Are you familiar with the Harvard Medical School primate research lab near Boston? Any stories you can share? Not so much. They don't really. I didn't have much crossover with them or their research. I mean, I know people at Harvard who were working on stuff, but you know, it's surprising how isolated you can be within a particular field. So yeah, I don't really have much dirt to dish on Harvard, I'm afraid. Did you get the poop in order? I did indeed. It splashed me in the face, and that's how I think I got an eye infection. Kev Baker, good to see you, sir. I wonder how much Event 201 matches up with things have okayed out so far. Close. Same with that SPARS document, right? And the whole point about that SPARS document was that there's this response to vaccination. There's this long-term sequelae which is focused around the central nervous system. And I've seen there's too much signal in the data for it to be ignored. And that's the whole point of me seeing. There's this response to vaccination. There's this long-term sequelae which is focused around the central nervous system. And I've seen there's too much signal in the data for it to be ignored. And that's the whole point of me sitting here for a year yelling at people. Because you know it leaps out at me, and people just need to pay. Just be on your guard right now. We don't know, and look at all the places where things are, despite lockdowns, despite masks, etc., things are getting out of hand. It's like they kind of want it. As in Japan, it's like people are ordered. Well, there were shrooms around too. Yeah, PP is a pain in the ass. Agreed. Even the laundry in the nursing home was freaking pain. Yeah. Thanks a lot, Kev. My government put me personally on an intelligence pedestal. What if it's on my own head? Point. Bosch flying circus. completely different. Yeah. This don't have babies, bigots. Brazil and Zika, now Rona, lucky brides. Yeah, yeah. No farmers, no food movement is huge in the Indian community. They can't lock down. True. Not a very good seer if he didn't see the virus coming. Indeed.
This is school match.
Especially the
To
population
rise to the
cares. They're
ranks, you
going on
have to
like
manage
nothing
your team,
out there.
players, and tactics. Can you conquer your rivals?
Playing
Will
play
you
for 12
lead
minutes.
your team to
So here's
glory?
Tony Hella video
Draw a line
URL.
to
When I
pass
open
to
it,
your
I get the
teammates.
YouTube video player, but no video. Time video on Tony Hella page says it's supposed to be 14 seconds long. 00. What do you all see? Please see if it runs for you. My internet seems very, very slow. See, yeah, it just doesn't seem to be working. Did you see the spinning folder I put in the folder, Kev? No, I didn't. We'll have a look at that.
Everyone here is looking forward to this fixture today.
Border lockdown in Ontario. Statement ERs are overload on younger people.
And we're off.
Also,
Who can get the first goal? Davis.
So this is the issue that we have right now. Is
good possession.
Dealing with both of the problems. Right? The virus is a problem. The technology being used to treat
the ref plays advantage. This player is rising through the ranks. This is good stuff. Passed inside. Oliva.
Could you put a link, please, with
intercepted.
Round.
Can they keep up this great passing? Really well played. And it's back to the keeper.
Just checking the time, just to see if we're up to speed with
Kovalchuk. Manager will be pleased with passing like that. Well intercepted.
Today's
Jensen.
Alright, this looks interesting.
The referee calls playback for an offside.
Different kind of army, the militarization of Chinese internet trolls. We like trolls.
Oh, this is good stuff.
Chinese Communist Party believes it is engaged in a global struggle for China's image. Sovereignty. Jiang Zhuan party leaders recognise that the main battlefield of public opinion is on the internet. They're adamant that the main battlefield must have a main force. Oh, look, man, so do we. And if the war is just shit posting on the internet, brilliant. That's progress. That's evolution. It's the sneaky bioweapons that I have a problem with. Raising China's internet troll army.
Can they make it? He's gone for it. What a goal! Fantastic stuff. Good work there to get on the score sheet. Manager will hope that form continues. That could be a really important goal in this football match. Who knows? Can they keep up this great passing? Can they make it count? Intercepted. Jensen. He showed a bit too much to the opposition there. That's nicely played. Good possession.
SARS-CoV-2 bindings, proteins bind heme and hemoglobin. Oh, we knew this, but nice to have it confirmed. It's a sort of mechanism of oxygen deprivation. Scientific community, I'm Stephen Robertson, for study, have a bit of questions about viral protein-protein interactions mechanism. Physiopathology is still clear. Though severe COVID-19 was associated with hematological dysfunctions, sparse experimental data were produced about iron disc metabolism. Look, iron disc metabolism is critical in neurological
game
disorders.
seems to be mostly played in the losing team's
high metabolic activity.
What a way to win the game. Not good enough from these players.
If we look, let's find the so This is data from a normal monkey, okay, or MPTP treated monkey, so chemically induced Parkinsonism, and that process can take days to a week. Notice that the middle of the brain, I'm trying to sort of run a circle around here, it's a sort of uniform color, whereas in Daphne monkey, okay, the one that developed this spontaneous neurodegeneration, you can see that all these nuclei in the middle appear very black, and this is a consequence of iron buildup, and the same in the deep cerebellar nuclei here. So you see the black spots. These are all the primary structures of the basal ganglia. The iron dysregulation is something that really, really needs to be paid close attention to, and we have to fight smart in this respect. So it's interesting that they're bringing up the iron metabolism. The work demonstrates the binding of SARS-CoV-2 proteins to hemin and HB using a multi-methodological approach. In silico analysis indicated binding motifs between the cavity and the viral nucleoprotein in the hemoglobin's porphyrin coordination region, defining hemin binding capacities of marking SARS-CoV-2 infected object extracts were noted using gel electrophoresis and TMB staining. Hemin binding proteins were isolated from SARS-CoV-2 infected cells by identified by shotgun proteomics, indicating that structural nuclear protein, spike and membrane protein, and non-structural protein, viral proteins interact with hemin. In vitro analysis of virus absorption to host cells and viral replication study in liver cells demonstrated inhibitory activities at different levels. Interesting. I think oh, spit. Alright, so I'm going to do the spitter and then I'm going to get off things. Give my assessment as to
fucking cocksucker. You probably suck cock. Muslims. Yes. Here we go.
I'm saving you.
Oh, I love your garb. You look like a fucking nigger.
Good for you. Good for you.
Pull that up, honey. God, ugly women. Hi, I'm at Wall Street. They're here in our country. In our country. Get the fuck out of my face. Get her up. Chief, listen, this guy is threatening me. This guy is threatening me.
Ladies, move back.
Will you please Walgreens
Move back.
on 17th Street?
I'm telling you right now, move back.
No, you threaten me. You threaten me. She's filming me. She's filming me. And he's calling me a cunt. And he's calling me a cunt. And he says he's going to throw me on the ground. He said that he's going to throw me on the ground. No.
Please back up right now.
You come. I'm
saving you.
No, I'm waiting for the police.
No. First of all, you need a mask.
I have a mask.
Then put it on.
No.
No.
Give them, this is the police. Give them the
I don't
mask.
give a damn who it is. You need a mask.
You need a mask. She doesn't care that you're the police. She doesn't care.
You need a mask.
Would you come to Walgreens on 17th
You can meet
Street?
them outside.
Listen.
You can meet them outside.
I have a mask. I'm putting it on.
All I'm asking you to do is put it on.
She's talking to me.
I don't care.
The police.
Put your mask on.
I will, ma'am.
You need to put your mask
What a
on.
bunch of idiots here.
You need to put your mask on.
There's a man threatening to hurt me. Get out of my face, honey. Get out of my face. Get out of my face. Get out of my face. You want me to spit on you again?
Oh,
Want me to spit
yeah,
on you?
I'm
Ugly
calling
bitch.
this as a
I swear to
COVID
you,
zombie.
you do that
Ugly
again, I'm
bitch.
gonna
You're
fucking
an ugly
I
bitch.
swear to you, I'm gonna hit
Why
you.
do you
Stop
wear
facing
clothes
some
like
bitch.
that? Why do
This
you have
racist
clothes
white
like
trash
that?
whore.
Ma'am.
Look, he's calling me a whore.
Yes,
You're
I am.
spitting-
You're spitting at people, you dumb
After
bitch.
he called me a whore. After he called me a
not illegal
cunt and a
right now.
whore. No.
You can get in
Could
trouble.
you please come? Could you please come?
Alright, this is no help. This is no help.
Will you give him the address?
I'm not giving them nothing.
They're not giving you anything. Can you believe it? This is Walgreens on 17th Street by the bridge.
You don't come in
By
and
the
sit on
bridge.
people. How do you come
And
in
there's
and sit on
Muslims
people?
here
Yeah, they're
that are
scary, yeah.
suffering. Muslims.
We're as scary as the
Hold on.
niggas.
Yeah. Called me a cunt and a whore.
Hi, alhamdulillah.
Fucking idiot. God, you're ugly. No wonder people hate you.
They do hate us. I know.
Israelis rule.
I know.
Israelis rule. Israelis rule because you guys are ugly.
Holy shit.
Israelis rule. We rule. We rule. Israelis rule.
She is Juden.
Are you getting anything in here?
Alright, there's more folks. She's definitely off her rocker. And spitting, losing their shit, female, high odds of impulse control disorder here.
Yes. Hello. Yes.
I know that. She's good.
Yeah, but they have been threatening
Okay,
me.
you can go outside.
They're gonna be outside. They're gonna be outside like they threaten Israelis.
You can go outside and you can talk to them.
No wonder this goes on in the world.
They're talking to you.
Yes.
Go outside and talk to them.
Where's the little cart?
We don't have any cards. You can go outside. Let's go outside and
I'm
talk
not
to
gonna
them.
go outside.
You have to go talk to them outside.
Where are you?
I'm saying she cannot hear you. You're yelling and stuff.
Let me
You
go
can
over here. I want to get away from the Muslims.
What the hell?
Okay, I want to see some spitting.
Good. I'm taping you. I'm taping you, huh? By the way, I'm taping you. She's doing that for me. She's doing this for me. She's talking nonsense to them. Yeah, she's. Oh my God.
I'm all lost in the supermarket. I can no longer shop happily.
Good. I'm taping you. I'm taping you, huh? By the way,
Is that just a short one?
I'm
I
taping
got
you.
that one.
Waiting for the cops. Oh my God! We're waiting for the cops. We're
Look
waiting for
at
the
this
cops.
woman is like standing. God, you ugly. Look at.
Don't touch me.
Come near me. Look at her. Fucking ugly bitch.
Hello? Ma'am,
What?
you have to go.
No, they're coming
No,
here.
no, no, no. Exactly. You need to go outside. You're not shopping in here, ma'am.
Keep her.
We will not bring you up for nothing.
Waiting for the cops. So now the police is here. Now the police is here for like 10 minutes.
The Great American Diet on display there.
Oh,
Yeah, but you'll wait around the corner.
Holy fuck, man. Look at that gut.
Look at that. Look at that. Cebu,
Where are you from?
Cebu.
Why don't you go back to Ukraine?
California.
We allow one to go back to you.
Fucking hell, man. Listen. That's a big backside, and like I say, America is ripe for harvesting. Holy shit.
Every color in this world.
I accept your apology.
I have friends.
Thank you, man.
Where is this? Oh, it's Florida, Fort Lauderdale. Is that what I read there? Florida wench.
They said no now? Yeah. They told me yes. They told me no just now to talk to them. Please don't.
How about we do that? That doesn't give you an excuse to act like a
Okay.
No,
Hey, they're leaving in 2 days. Take it.
So she calls the police, and now she's crying. 500-pound pig, halal friendly. Besides the constant obvious favours, Yehudis don't do themselves any favours. Jeez, yeah. This I agree.
Every color in this world.
I accept your apology.
I have friends that are.
Yeah, we've
Do
addressed
you
that.
so?
Alright, we'll deal with it. Come on.
Every color in this world.
I accept your apology.
I have friends that are.
Yeah, we've addressed.
You are a fucking
Yeah, I'm gonna.
cocksucker.
Well,
You probably suck cock.
It's Florida, man. So pass this one on to Mersh and Nightwave. The spitting makes me suspect COVID infection, but very, very difficult to extract much beyond this without seeing the initial wind up. This could just be massive ego boundaries clashing. And alright. We walk into Walgreens, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. As this woman walks in, she was told by an employee to put on a mask. She continued walking, but she didn't hear the cashier. So I said, "Mom, he's talking to you." She replied, "I wish I was from your country so I didn't have to wear a mask." My friend replied back, "Which country is that?" She said, "Whatever country." So she went off with the foul language and spit on my friend's arm and said, "First it was the Black Lives Matters, then it's the Asians, and now it's the Muslims."
What's up, Tanya?
Oh, look, man. For me, this is the. It's find the humor in it, guys, right now, and but it is a spitting video when she spits on them at first. Where I don't see the. Sorry, they didn't get the spitting. Yeah, it's, like I say, I would like to see the build up to the spit. And you know, that's a good indicator of a COVID zombie phenotype, I think. That's the impulse control disorder. This is just the fallout as they all start clocking each other. And it's Florida, man. She's no doubt drank 2 bottles of gin that day and smoked some jumbo rocks. That's methencephalitis. Yeah, I think that's a lot of alcohol and drugs. And look, man, the drugs and everything. It's all fun and games whilst you're young, but you know there's a point where you have to say, you know, enough, stop. Otherwise, you end up like this, and especially the alcohol and the amphetamines and that type of thing. And God bless the Muslims. I think they handled it pretty well considering she got spat at. That's oh God, DJ, maybe she just left the John and was still spitting out the cream of some young guy. Where's it? There's a scene in Breaking Bad where they follow the prostitute for sort of and there's like I think it's Rolling Stone songs, and you sort of see her in her working day sort of compressed down, and she keeps drinking mouthwash. That's but yeah, she probably just wanted some mouthwash, man. Need to get on with the work. But yeah, spitting, like I say, we can't nail it on 100%, but yeah, it's highly suspicious. And I didn't think you had to wear masks in Florida. Anyway. Amazing. Alright. Alright, is there anything else for me to do? Should I read this? This was... Alabaster. So, Eyes Wide Open Clan. So, statement by Dr. Ray Sahelian, MD. I will not be taking the current vaccines. After being in the hesitant category for several months, see my December 17th post where I first voiced my concerns, I am now in the no category. As a retired medical doctor, I have plenty of time and a genuine fascination to thoroughly research this topic. I've been diligently reviewing every scientific journal I can find on PubMed, reading every online news article I came across and going through countless case reports on the CDC VAERS website, listening to doctors opine on multiple TV networks, and reading countless posts on the Facebook COVID-19 vaccine side effects group, where I am one of the administrators. I now have a better understanding of how these mRNA vaccines influence our immune system, tissues and organs, how they could be of benefit and how they could cause multiple short, medium and potentially long-term side effects. I'm now convinced that the benefits promoted by the experts on TV regarding the efficacy of these vaccines are less than what they promise, and the adverse reactions are more than they want us to believe. The effects of these vaccines on the human body are incredibly more complex than anyone can imagine. In the beginning, you get injected with 0.3 ml of mRNA vaccine in your deltoid muscle. What happens next? The mRNA strands are enclosed in a bubble of lipid nanoparticles. This fluid will make its way into your bloodstream, and the nanoparticles will travel throughout your body. A lot of it will also make its way into your lymphatic system, particularly the lymph nodes in your armpit where the immune cells produce antibodies. The immune cells in your nodes multiply, and that is why some people notice swollen nodes in the armpit on the edge of the injected arm. The mRNA bubbles will also go to your spleen. Much of the circulating nanoparticles in the bloodstream will end up in the liver. Once in the liver, the nanoparticles enter your liver cells. There, the mRNA strands instruct your liver cells to make the spike proteins. You can find images by Googling, which are then released into your general circulation, further travelling through the rest of the body and then entering or attacking to the cells of multiple tissues and organs. It is estimated that this spike protein manufacturing process in your liver cells can start within hours after the shot and continue for about 2 or 3 days, and then the mRNA strands disintegrate. They don't keep making the spike proteins forever, as some people claim. I want to thank my friend Ronik Kakaturian, PhD, molecular biologist, who has helped me better understand these complex processes. Ronik is an expert in viral reproduction and the metabolic function of the liver. Side effects explained. The immediate side effects that occur within minutes or up to an hour or two are probably due to the non-mRNA substances in the vaccine, such as PEG. These can cause allergic and anaphylactic reactions such as shortness of breath, elevated heart rate, swelling of the tongue or throat. In some people, this has led to ER visits and hospitalization. A few hours later, many people start noticing their reactions later in the evening or overnight or the next day. It takes a few hours for the liver to produce the spike proteins, which are then released in the bloodstream and travel to many places in the body and brain. In the meantime, the lymph glands and other parts of the immune system have just started making inflammatory substance, which lead to a variety of symptoms such as fever, fatigue, malaise, headache, pain and redness. Injection site and so on. These spike proteins will also attach themselves to different cells and tissues, for instance the cells lining blood vessels, muscles, joint, heart, lung, nerves, kidney, intestines, etc. Inflammatory substances may recognize those cells as foreign and attack. This can lead to muscle pain, joint pain, rash, dizziness, rapid heart rate, and a host of symptoms. I might object to this because the argument would be that the spike it should be membrane bound. Is the body churning out lots and lots of spikes freely? The argument is no. So I don't know what to make that. It's long anyway. All right, guys, I'm out of here. It's Saturday. Take care. God bless. I'll try to be on later with Brendan. We'll be looking at Israel. Go Israel.
Okay, I'm going to presume everything's working. My name is Brendan Lee O'Connell. I am 50 years old. I'm on the run with 3 warrants for my arrest about asylum in Iran. Malaysia, I've been to Malaysia, Lebanon, you name it. One of the biggest espionage cases in history, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, and the biggest hate speech trial in history, and you probably never heard of me. Let's briefly go to the date. The date today is 6:44 p.m. It's the 14th of April 2021. This picture, that side of me, thank you, the Imperial Spanner Monkey, man attached to Special Forces in the US, in his support role, making sure the helicopters stay in the air, the land of the Imperial Spanner. Sorry, oh no, Imperial. Is it Imperial? It's not metric, that's correct. You know, that's a great little sunset, isn't it? It's a photo. America, you have some very beautiful scenery. A large and diverse land, that's for sure. Well, let's get down to the business. What are we going to talk about today? Because I thought, well, I better do something. There's a lot happening. War with Iran and China, number one, and number two, of course, I want to go back and go over a little bit of Edward Snowden. Someone posted a little video insinuating Snowden had mentioned Israel. No, he hasn't. He hasn't done diddly. Edward Snowden, I'm going to stop. We'll talk about it later. But my God, I think it's time Edward, little starry-eyed Snowden, was brought down to earth, as Assange has been. I think Assange was for real, though mistaken. Snowden is something different. It's taken me a long time to make up my mind on Snowden, but we just want to go over a couple of things about Snowden again. Also, everyone, Patrick Berge, Will Patrick Berge, you know, he insinuates, he tosses bones. I like Patrick. I think we'd get along, but I can't really continue to support in any way Patrick if he's not going to get stuck into Israel and keep sort of making excuses that it's more complicated. No, it's not complicated. It's Israel. It's the City of London. It's the European banking cartels. That's what it is, period. And if Millie Weaver and her husband are going to do a Shadowgate 3 without talking about Israel, I think it's time they were put in the bullshit basket right along with Alex Jones. So it's going to get to the stage now as things get into very serious consequences in the year 2021, the year of our Lord, and people continue to flitter around the edges and not get into the meaty bits. We need to focus on Israel and the subversion of US infrastructure, critical infrastructure, cyber pandemics, and as far as I'm concerned, COVID has been one thing, one giant distraction. I believe it was, I said before that it was definitely set for the second half of the decade. I was truly shocked when COVID took off and they shut the planet down. I couldn't believe it. I just thought, man, that's not due now. I thought, man, they have come out with a right hook on this issue. Then, of course, you have SPAs. Good old SPAs. Where are you, SPAs? SPAs. There we are. SPAs. Now that's a little booklet and a case scenario from 2017 set for the second half of the decade. And that to me was always the time to do it before you set up this decade for the big transition into crypto, the Bank of International Settlements, electronic sovereign drawing rights, distributed ledger technology. Thank you, the Magical Unicorn, for the info on that. And then that's for wholesale, for large transactions between nations. And then you would have your local Fed crypto of choice, Reserve Bank crypto of choice in each relevant country. But the tie that binds would be the electronic sovereign drawing rights. And gold would still be there. Bitcoin would have a role for a while, but then they would roll over Bitcoin into, it's not going to have any independent competition. How any moron would honestly believe the trillionaire bankers would allow people to run riot with their own crypto? I don't think so. It was always an Israeli Unit 8200 operation. There is no Bitcoin Japanese guy doing it. It was always the Israelis working for the City of London, setting up, getting ready, decades ahead for this operation to roll over. It's going to be a very interesting time. 2021 is the year, but then I thought 2020 was going to be a big year. But as far as I'm concerned, if nothing happens 2021, it ain't ever happening. Unless they go to a very slow rolling series of events leading into the second half of the decade. They're getting a lot of data. We happily supply it to them, and it's all running very nicely for them, so they don't have to. Oh yes, I am working, sorry. So they don't have to, forgive me, I just had to double check something. It is running, thank God. Thank you, Kevin, for getting that. Thank you, Matthew. I had hoped to expand a bit and do some more stuff. I can't thank Matthew and Kevin enough for they just boom, just got it all up and running. but I'm not going to try anything expansive. I just don't have it in me. I think it's a time, as Kevin and I discussed, to sort of cover up a bit and just try to do what you can. But I'm just buying a lot of free Hollis beans and making the best of it in my situation where I am, and obviously you should too. For God's sake, at least get 2 or 3 months of stuff. If you're not getting your bone broth or your Patriot supplies, at least get some. Beans are really good, free Hollis beans, because they're vegetable protein and they last a long time. I'm not a huge fan of rice and pasta and stuff. I think beans are a really good option. Just make sure you got something. Water supply. You shouldn't have to be told this. You need something, just a little supply, even if it's just for a month. And we'll see what happens. But the bets are off. The data's giving them a lot of power to just gently slither like a snake, push up against, then back off, push up against, back off, go to the left, go to the right, and play this ongoing game. Anyway, let's get into a few articles that have come up. If you don't know who I am, I strongly suggest you visit the website telpiot.tech. I strongly suggest you go to the Brighteon channel and catch up on all the Israeli technology stuff. Some of those videos got 250,000 views, 30,000 views, 60,000 views. Some of them are almost 4 years old and beyond. And you will see just how far behind the internet stars are. And I want to ask questions again and again. Why is it the technology transfer and the fourth industrial revolution, Taiwan Semiconductor just off China, why haven't these particular scenarios been entering the analysis of the internet heroes? That's a good question. I want to keep hammering home that I wouldn't trust a single one of them. Not one. We also want to go into, finally there's a class action. Finally there is a class action against Intel. I couldn't believe it. Intel, if you didn't know, should be basically lost 2/3 of their value coming up because it's just so bad what's been going on. Where are you? I had this all laid out. The best laid plans of mice and men. Here it is. Intel processor security flaw class action. Now, if you didn't know, Intel it was big problems back in 2017. They realized what trouble they were in. These flaws have been around since about 2004. Coincidentally, 2004, 2006, when the Core 2 Duo came out, which was a purely Israeli affair. Fancy the timing there, isn't that interesting? And finally, someone is getting up a class action to sue the ass off Intel, who didn't tell anyone. Oh, lost my connection there a little bit. Didn't tell anybody for 6 months that there was a massive... Oh, I am losing... No one is home. No one is home. Why am I losing my connection constantly? Lord have mercy. It's up and down like a yo-yo. All right, if this gets really badly broken up, you probably still got the audio. You might not be noticing because it's a static screen, but this, of course, is recorded locally and will be uploaded to YouTube tomorrow. And I will upload to this footage immediately to just cover up for the breaks and problems with transmission. Anyway, I mentioned Intel and Israel and the... oh, look, I did hits at the same time. I should put that on the screen. Every time I mention Israel and Intel, it just dies in the ass. I said every time I mention Intel and Israel, and boom, down it went again. Oh, dearie me. Okay. Anyway, let's not mention Intel and Israel. Oh, let's just move on. The audio should be coming through. Okay. I order anyone in Canada. I've got an email with what you can write to talk about your losses, potential losses. They did tell the Chinese government a couple of months before they told the American government. That was very nice of Intel. Please, if you didn't know, please remember that this Intel CEO, we think of ourselves as an Israeli company as much as a US company. I just want to say that will be centered here in Jerusalem. Now, I want you to imagine something. That's pretty big news. Intel is like an incredible story. Phil Noyce and the gang starting up that a company there in Silicon Valley, California. It's an incredible story. It's that dream that America was built on, real or slightly imagined, but of where a bunch of people can get together and create something out of nothing. And it's a great story. I urge you to go onto YouTube and you can look up Silicon Valley Intel, history of Intel. It's a fascinating story. It's a blue chip company. the pride really of America in many ways, and it just went downhill fast when they decided to integrate themselves with Israel. And at the same time as this picture was taken, March 15th, 2017, it was just about to come out that the Intel processors had a major flaw, giving full access to those in the know. It was called Spectre and Meltdown, you might remember. That is Brian Kuchenik. He lost his job in the end over, would you believe, not for presiding over the greatest catastrophe in high-tech history. He got sacked for an inappropriate sexual relationship with an accountant at Intel. I'm just wondering if he ever visited Epstein Island. But anyway, that should be on everyone's lips. Intel CEO, we think of ourselves as an Israeli company. When you understand the power of Intel, its fabrication, production capacity, its vital role in national security in the United States, every corporate, it's still, even with all the disasters, it still dominates 80% of the data center and corporate enterprise market. And that's the big shekels, baby. That's where the big dollars are. Still, despite the fact that AMD's just taken big turds all over them, their AMD EPIC 64-core processors just killing them. They've finally just released if you excuse me for a second, they finally released the 10 nanometer Ice Lake server processors are just out. Epic's still killing them, and the Milan's coming out, the next version from AMD. That'll be doing them over, but it doesn't matter. Intel will continue to make money because of one simple thing, COVID. Isn't it interesting that Israel has won on so many levels? And when you remember this, Intel CEO, we think of ourselves as an Israeli company as much as a US company. You will understand how Israel has benefited on so many levels with this whole COVID thing. Not only are they world leaders in virology, not only is Israel filled with Russian biological warfare specialists, not only is Israel deep in bed with China. I mean, you know, look at this article from all those years ago. Many of you will know this article. In Beijing, Netanyahu looks to marry Israel's technology with China's capacity. America's greatest ally, everybody. Shafting the US night and day. That's why you must watch my Brighteon channel and go and watch all those videos, and that will give you the full rundown of what you're looking at. But in that title, Intel CEO, we think of ourselves as an Israeli company as much as a US company. And the follow-up, I just want to say that it will be centered here in Jerusalem. What does that mean? It means the fourth industrial revolution will be centered in Jerusalem. It means the bunting cloverleaf map. Again, go and watch the Brighteon channel and you will understand exactly what has been going on and the critical, disgusting lack of analysis online. We first put this up 4 years ago, 10 people sharing links, thinking, well, this is going to catch fire, everyone will get it, 250,000 views on some videos, and it went literally nowhere. Nowhere. That is the power. So as Intel leads things like supercomputers to do with virology research, simulating viruses and pharmacological products on the viruses, things like, I've forgotten his name, guys, graduates of the Telpiot program, Compugen, one of the big ones, and you find Israel one of the first to have a vaccine, who by luck, sheer luck, and many of you remember this. I'll just go to pictures, I'll just type in COVID, that we shall not speak of, and we shall, hello, where are you? Or was it Corona? Corona. Lord have mercy, now I can't find it. I'm sorry, but where is the picture? Well, I'll be damned. It is not here. That is impossible. Am I having a few problems lately? Let's put in COVID Israel. It'll be here. Come on, Brendan. Here we are. God, I'm not getting that paranoid. I'm paranoid enough. Just so you remember, the Jerusalem Post, Israeli scientists in a few weeks will have a coronavirus vaccine. That's from March 15, 2020. Let's call it pure luck, he said. We decided to choose coronavirus as a model for our system, just as a proof of concept for our technology. Now, once you add it all up, it was just like 9/11. We have 9/11 happen. Please don't listen to morons who tell you viruses don't exist or COVID's a figment of your imagination. There's a lot of misinformation going around out there. There is a real virus. It is identifiable. We can talk about that later. But the fact of the matter is, no sooner does 9/11 happen, we find Israel benefiting hand over fist. No sooner does COVID happen, we find Israel, the great friend of Russia and China, benefiting hand over fist, with the Southeast Asian Times saying that the US dollar is standing in the way of the Bank of International Settlements and a truly global response to coronavirus. Bring down the United States, ruin the US economy, so on and so forth. Place Israel on the bunting cloverleaf map, China and Russia as the center in the pan-Eurasian superstate, all lackeys of Rothschild. Which will get us on to the next segment is there going to be a war? Well, your question is as good as mine. But the first question everyone should have asked was, boy, you really would have thought that article would have been flying around everywhere on Whitney Webb, James Corbett, or maybe Robert David Steele, that trolling piece of garbage, wouldn't it? I want you to ask these questions, very simple questions. It goes nowhere. Understand that. But now there's a class action. Let's read it. Consumer Law Group has launched, because I want you to imagine this. When the Spectre and Meltdown things were identified, all right, it was a disaster. They had to turn off hyperthreading. Hyperthreading means you have multiple cores and you can split those cores in two, again, via software called hyperthreading. This is important when you have big server chips, which may have, 16, 20, 24, 30, or in the case of AMD, 64 cores and then 128 threads. It means if the core's not overloaded, it can split itself in two again and do another task. So when you're operating a huge data center or an enterprise or corporate market, you can have a centralized CPU running multiple terminals. So everything's centralized for the admin. It's very important. Now, when they had to switch off hyperthreading, they lost half their power. Imagine you have a sports car and you're in a race and you've lost your brakes. And sorry, to get your brakes back, you have to, and your seatbelt, you have to lose half your horsepower. That's not a good way to be. Now imagine what happened. Did Intel lose money? No, they tripled their profits because they had to then expand their data centers to make up for all the lost capacity. So they profited off their own F-up. And it may have been more than just a mistake. It may well have been Israel had placed so many flaws and backdoors in the chips, they had to completely redesign the 10 nanometer process. That's a potential reason for that cock-up. That was a huge cock-up, and they never paid a cent for it. They never suffered from it. COVID came along, and you had 20, 30, and sometimes 40% increase in demand instead of 2 and 3% due to work from home, which is another boon for Israel as it collects so much data as everyone from the Pentagon to the enterprise market to small and medium businesses to mum and dad are now talking to each other over Zoom. How convenient. Consumer Law Group has launched a class action lawsuit against Intel of Canada Limited, Intel International and Intel Corporation relating to security flaws of their central processing units. The Intel processors in the lawsuit include, but are not limited to, Intel Celeron, Intel Pentium, Intel Core i3, Intel Core i5, Intel Core i7, Intel Xeon, which are all the enterprise market data centers, Intel Xeon 5, Intel Atom, and Intel Itanium processors. Intel processors can be found in desktop, laptop, cloud-based computers, as well as servers, tablets, and smartphones. All electronic devices which contain Intel processors since at least 2004 may be affected by the security flaw. It's not a security flaw, it's a backdoor. The class action alleges that Intel Pentium processors contain security flaws that may be exploited by hackers to access class members' personal and or private information such as passwords, usernames, security keys, credentials, cryptographic keys, social security, insurance numbers, personal photos, credit card and banking information, emails and other data. The design defect, let me put that in quotation marks, the design defect, that might be significant, thereby making their electronic devices susceptible to attacks called Meltdown and Spectre. It is further alleged in the lawsuit that Intel has effectively known about the design defects since at least June 1, 2017 and should have known even earlier than that. Yet they intentionally made the business decision to not disclose its existence to consumers. This is big. Coming from communist Canada. Intel is not, I've got a friend, he was so peeved, he lost quite a bit of data and I said, you've got to get in, so he's signed up for this class action, the link will be below. Intel has not offered to compensate consumers to remedy their damages. Instead, class members are asked to download a patch which will dramatically degrade the CPU's performance and slow their electronic devices by between 5% to 30%. If you or someone you know is an owner or lessee of an electronic device that contains an Intel processor, blah, 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 anywhere in Canada, Ontario, Quebec, and you wish more information on potential compensation, or to be kept advised of the status of the Intel processor security flaw class action litigation or any resulting compensation from this lawsuit, Please provide your contact information to our law firm using the form below. If you wish to join the class action or to simply get more information, please complete the form below. Please note that providing your information creates no financial obligation for you. Come on, everyone, get down. If you're in Canada, get down and sign up. You are not charged any fee or cost for joining this class action. Our law firm is paid a contingency fee from the compensation recovered only if the class action is successful. All information contained in this transmission is confidential, and Consumer Law Group agrees to protect this information against unauthorized use, publication, or disclosure. Well, I hope they don't use Intel processors. They're going to lose it. Now, you have to have lost something. Did you lose data? Did you do time and energy? Did you have a small business, a medium business? Were you a student and lose data? I suggest you get creative and get down there and sign yourself up. Damages or symptoms experienced. Well, I had nightmares. Trust me, I hope they have one for, I don't know, for Australians, because I'll be signing up for that. So get everyone out there. Canadians, you commie Canadians, get all your friends know Intel processor security floor.
Let's see. Okay, Bertie. Hold on. Can you... I can't do the call thing. Let me see. We could do Discord, yeah. We could do Discord. Let me call you. Let me call you. Call you on Discord, yeah. Where are you?